You are standing at your kitchen counter on a warm summer afternoon. You just finished eating a peach, the kind that is so ripe and juicy you had to lean over the sink while eating it. And now you are holding the pit, that rough, woody little thing left over when the fruit is gone. And without even thinking about it, you do what everybody does. You drop it in the trash. Here is what nobody ever told you. That pit you just threw away is not waste. It is a living, genetically programmed fruit tree, fully intact, ready to grow. At any nursery across the country right now, the tree that grows from a pit like that sells for between $75 and over $100. You just threw away a $100 tree. And if you are like most people, you have been doing that every single summer for years. In this video, I am going to walk you through the exact three-step process that turns any stone fruit pit into a growing tree. We are covering peaches, plums, cherries, apricots, and almonds specifically because each one has slightly different requirements, and most guides out there completely ignore that. By the end of this video, you will know how to prepare your pits, how to trigger germination reliably, and how to get your seedlings established so they actually survive and grow into productive trees. This works whether you have a large yard, a small backyard, or even just a balcony with a few containers. If you are serious about growing your own fruit and not just reading about it, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. Every week, I put out content built from real experience with real trees in real soil. No recycled internet advice. Just practical knowledge that actually works. Hit subscribe and let us get into it. Here is the reality that most people never discover. Every stone fruit you eat, every peach, every plum, every cherry, every apricot, every almond, contains inside its pit a fully formed embryo. A tiny, dormant, living plant. That embryo has everything it needs encoded in its genetics to become a full-sized fruit tree. The pit is not waste. It is the beginning of something that could outlive you and feed your family for decades. But most people throw it away because nobody ever told them it was valuable. And here is the part that really matters. The ones who do try to grow from pits, the ones who drop a pit into a pot of soil and wait, almost always fail. And they fail for one specific reason that has nothing to do with their soil, their climate, or their skill as a grower. They fail because they skip the single most important biological requirement that stone fruit seeds have. Without it, that seed will never germinate. No matter how long you wait, no matter how perfect your conditions are, that requirement is called stratification. Stone fruit trees, peaches, plums, cherries, apricots, almonds, all of them evolved in climates with cold winters. The seed inside the pit is programmed at a biological level to not germinate until it has experienced a period of cold and moisture that mimics a natural winter. This is a survival mechanism built into these trees over thousands of years. If the seed germinated right after the fruit fell in summer, that tiny seedling would push out of the ground into hot, dry conditions and die before winter arrived. So instead, the seed waits. It detects cold and moisture over an extended period of time, and only when those conditions have been met for long enough does it allow germination to begin. In nature, this happens automatically. The pit falls to the ground in autumn, sits through winter in cold, moist soil, and germinates in spring. When you are growing at home, you have to recreate that winter artificially. When you do it correctly, the results are genuinely surprising. I have personally hit germination rates above 70% on peach pits using this exact method. Most people who try without stratification get zero. Not low numbers. Zero. Now there is a second challenge, and that is the hard outer shell surrounding the actual seed inside the pit. It is a hard, woody, ridged shell built to survive serious punishment, designed to withstand falling from a tree, being stepped on by animals, and sitting through freeze and thaw cycles all winter long. While that toughness is perfect for the seed in nature, it creates a real challenge at home. That shell can take many months to crack open on its own, and during that time, the seed inside can rot if conditions are not right. Experienced growers know how to work around this, either by carefully cracking the outer shell to access the seed directly, or by using techniques that speed things up without damaging what is inside. This is the knowledge that separates growers who fill their yards with trees from those who try once, get nothing, and never try again. And right now, you have that knowledge. So let us put it to use. Step 1 is pit preparation, and this is where almost everyone who fails makes their critical mistake. Yes. When you finish eating your fruit, do not toss that pit into a pot of soil and hope for the best. Take it inside and clean it properly first. Rinse the pit under running water and use a stiff brush to scrub away every single trace of fruit flesh from the outside of the shell. Any fruit flesh left on that pit will rot during the stratification period, and that rot creates exactly the kind of fungal and bacterial environment that will kill your seed before it ever has a chance. So take the extra 2 minutes and do this right. Once the pit is clean, let it dry for 2 to 3 days at room temperature, away from direct sunlight. Now here is where things get specific depending on which fruit you are working with. For peaches and apricots, carefully crack the outer woody shell using nut crackers, or wrap the pit in a cloth and tap it gently with a hammer. You want just enough pressure to crack the shell without crushing the seed inside. The seed inside looks like a small, pale, smooth, teardrop-shaped almond, and that extracted seed will stratify and germinate significantly faster than the whole pit. We are talking weeks faster. For plums and cherries, the shell is naturally thinner, so you can stratify the whole pit without cracking. Lightly sanding one end of a cherry pit with fine sandpaper will still speed things up noticeably. For almonds, if you are working with fresh almonds from a tree, crack and extract the kernel the same way you would with a peach. Step 2 is stratification, and getting this right is what separates growers who get results from those who get nothing. Take your prepared pits and place them into a Ziploc bag or a small container with a handful of moist medium. The mix I use is 50% coarse sand and 50% coconut coir. The moisture level matters enormously here. The medium should be slightly damp, not wet, not dripping. Just damp enough that when you squeeze a handful, it holds its shape but releases absolutely no water. If water drips out, it is too wet, and you need to add more dry material before your seeds go anywhere near it. Once the medium is right, bury your pits in it, seal the bag loosely so there is some air exchange, and place it in your refrigerator. Standard household refrigerator temperature, between 34 and 41 degrees Fahrenheit, is exactly what you need. Now here is where timing differences between each species become critically important, and this is the piece most guides either get wrong or skip entirely. Peaches need the longest stratification period, between 90 and 120 days. That is 3 to 4 full months in the refrigerator. This is why I tell growers to start their peach pits in the fall, so they are ready to plant in late winter or early spring. Apricots are similar to peaches and need between 80 and 100 days. Plums and cherries fall in the 60 to 90-day range. And almonds need the shortest period, typically 40 to 60 days. Mark your calendar the day you put those pits in and check on them every 2 weeks. Watch carefully for the first sign of germination, a small white root tip beginning to emerge from the seed. The moment you see that root tip, even if the full stratification period is not complete, that pit is ready to plant. The root tip is your signal. Trust it and move on. Step 3 is planting and establishment. Use a pot at least 8 inches deep with good drainage holes. Fill it with quality potting soil, combined with about 20% coarse perlite to keep the soil from holding too much water around those young roots. Make a hole about 1 inch deep in the center. Place your seed with the root tip pointing straight down and cover it gently. Water slowly and thoroughly until water runs from the drainage holes. Place the pot somewhere warm with bright indirect light. A windowsill with morning sun is ideal. The seedling does not want intense direct sun at this stage. From planting to the first shoot typically takes 1 to 3 weeks for a properly stratified seed. Once your seedling has 4 to 6 true leaves and is growing steadily, begin introducing more direct morning sun gradually over 2 weeks and apply a dilute balanced liquid fertilizer at half the recommended rate every 2 weeks. By the end of the first growing season, a well-managed seedling can reach between 24 and 36 inches and be ready for its permanent position in your yard. Now here is the golden tip, and I have genuinely never seen this mentioned anywhere else. When selecting which pits to keep, do not randomly grab any pit from any piece of fruit. Be deliberate. Choose the largest, most perfectly formed fruit from the healthiest tree you can access. The embryo inside a pit from a large, well-nourished fruit carries larger carbohydrate reserves than one from a small or stressed fruit. Those reserves are the fuel that carries your seedling from germination all the way until it can photosynthesize on its own. A seedling with larger reserves germinates faster, builds a stronger root system, and establishes more vigorously. In practical terms, if you eat peaches from a tree at a local farmer's market that produces exceptional fruit, save those pits. The best pits always come from fully ripe fruit eaten fresh from a productive, healthy tree. And always keep 3 to 5 pits for every tree you want to grow, because not every seed will germinate even with perfect technique. Always keep 3 to 5 pits going at the same time. That simple habit changes everything. Let me also go through the 5 most common mistakes, because even people who understand the process can undermine their results with these errors. The first mistake is skipping stratification or cutting it short. I have had people tell me their peach pit did not germinate after 2 weeks in a pot. A peach pit needs 90 to 120 days of cold stratification. There are no shortcuts. The biology requires what it requires. The second mistake is using wet medium during stratification. Moist is the word. If your medium drips when you squeeze it, it is too wet and your seeds will rot. The third mistake is planting the germinated seed with the root tip pointing up. The root tip always goes down. Always. The fourth mistake is overwatering after the seedling emerges. If the soil stays soggy for more than a day or two, the roots will rot and the seedling will collapse. It did not give up. It drowned. Water when the top layer of soil feels dry to the touch, not on a fixed daily schedule. The fifth mistake is putting the seedling outside too early without hardening it off. Transition it gradually, a few hours of morning sun per day for a week, then half a day, then full outdoor placement. Rush that and you will see the leaves scorch at exactly the moment it should be building its root system. Beyond these 5 mistakes, there is one more thing worth saying. Consistency matters more than perfection. You do not need to get every single detail exactly right on your first attempt. What you need is to understand the principles, respect the biology, and learn from each season. Every grower I know who now has a yard full of productive stone fruit trees started with a single pit, made a few mistakes, adjusted their approach, and tried again. The learning curve is shorter than you think, and the results are more rewarding than most people expect. Now I want you to think about what you are actually holding when you hold a stone fruit pit. A mature peach tree can produce between 100 and 200 pounds of fruit every single year for 20, 30, even 40 years. At current prices across most of the United States, organic peaches run between $2 and $4 per pound. That is up to $450 worth of fruit from a single tree in a single season. From a pit that cost you nothing, a pit you were about to drop in the trash. And nursery trees are selling right now for between $75 and over $100 each before you even factor in soil, fertilizer, or setup costs. The tree sitting inside that pit is worth more than most people ever stop to calculate, and it starts with zero upfront investment on your part. I also want to be honest with you about one thing, because honesty builds better growers than hype ever does. A tree grown from a pit may not produce fruit identical to the fruit you started with. Most commercially grown stone fruits are hybrid varieties, so your seedling may grow into something slightly different from its parent. It might surprise you. It might produce something you love even more. That element of surprise is honestly part of what makes this process so compelling for growers who enjoy it. But if your goal is a guaranteed, specific, named variety, starting with a grafted nursery tree is the smarter move for that goal. Growing from pits is for the grower who wants to explore, who wants to build something lasting from absolutely nothing, and who wants to stand in their yard a decade from now, look at a tree covered in fruit, and say out loud, "I started that from a pit I almost threw away." The pit from a peach you eat this summer could be a tree producing fruit by 2028 or 2029. That same tree could still be feeding your family in 2055. Not as a fantasy, as a simple biological fact. You do not need expensive equipment. You do not need a large piece of land. You need the fruit you are already going to eat, a refrigerator you already own, a pot with some well-draining soil, and the 3 steps that are now completely clear to you. Next time you eat a peach on a warm summer afternoon, juice running down your hand, standing over the sink the same way you were at the very beginning of this video, you are not just eating fruit anymore. You are holding the beginning of a tree. A tree that could be producing fruit in 3 to 4 years. A tree that could still be feeding your kids and your grandkids 30 years from now. All it needs from you is the right preparation, the right environment, and the patience to let biology do what it was designed to do. Drop a comment right now and tell me which fruit you are starting with. A peach, a plum, a cherry, an apricot, or an almond. Just the name in the comments below. I read every single comment on this channel, and I genuinely want to know which tree you are planting today. If this video gave you something real, if you are going to save a pit today that you would have thrown away yesterday, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. I post practical, field-tested content every week for growers who are serious about their trees. Real experience from real orchards and real backyards. Click subscribe and you will never miss a video that could change how you grow. Next week, I am covering how to speed up the time from seedling to first fruit, including the exact grafting technique commercial nurseries use to get trees producing years earlier than a seed-grown tree would on its own. If you are growing from pits and want fruit as fast as possible, that video is exactly what you need. I will see you there.